things are tense out there. So in this episode, we are discussing exactly how to navigate political differences with your family during election season, and especially if the holidays are right around the corner too. Buckle up, here we go. Welcome to Accidentally Intentional, where we are on a mission to destroy loneliness by building rich friendships and relationships. And this episode is really relevant to this because the political climate is starting to, if it hasn't already, seep in massively to all of our relationships. It's really tense to kind of talk about this with people that might be on the opposite side of the aisle. So because of this, and because I've been struggling with that too, I thought it would be a good idea to set some ground rules for how exactly we can navigate this election season together while still keeping all of our relationships intact. And I think the most important thing to remember as we start thinking about this is if we come into a conversation remembering and thinking about the fact that everyone sees the world through different lenses based on their own personal life experience or the experiences that they've heard from other people in their life, wow, we are going to have so much more grace for one another. And that really is imperative when it comes to this, when you know that you're going to have a conversation with someone who does not see eye to eye with you. And I think that something really important for us to think through is that, and I'm speaking for myself, we don't need to be afraid of having these conversations if we genuinely care about the people around us. Because if we care about the people around us, we care more about the relationship than the outcome of the election. And we often get that confused because we make politics, a politician, the whole election cycle, the news, all of it, we make it all more important than what's actually most important, which are the people right in front of us that we do life with and cherish. So when we're having discussions with people, we got to remember to, one, have grace for people, knowing that they are thinking about this through their own life experience, not necessarily yours or anybody else's. And secondly, we care about the relationship with them more than politics. When we do these two things, it becomes a safer environment that we're creating to have conversations with people that potentially sit on the other side of the aisle in your family or in your friend groups or at work, anywhere. Because we're coming in with that specific lens ourselves. And therefore, we can have a conversation. If someone makes a remark that you're like, oh my God, internally you're thinking, I couldn't disagree with them more, my blood is starting to boil. Breathe. And if you actually want to pursue that conversation and you feel like it's an okay time to do so based on your own self-reflection and metrics as to where you're at, then I think a great opening question to ask is, hey, I'd love to discuss this with you, but I want to know, are we both willing to respect each other's thought process and opinions, even if they don't align? And this is a really powerful question because it makes the other person decide to also be in control of their behavior, their words, their actions. And sometimes I need that reminder. And I'm sure you do too. And also it gives the person the opportunity to say, heck no, you're a lunatic if you believe this, And then okay, not safe to have this conversation. But hopefully both people say, yeah, of course, I care about you. And then, boom, the dialogue begins. We're having these conversations. Obviously, some critical things to do are listen to what they're saying, but also share how you feel without trying to change someone's mind. Because how angry are we when people come at us trying to change our mind when we already have decided? Now, sure, we can always be willing to change our minds, but we shouldn't expect other people to be willing to do the same. So, pro tip is focus on understanding each other's viewpoints and why they think that and why they see that without trying to change their mind. And obviously tone is important in this, and I am the worst offender at this because my tone often comes across as very defensive. In fact, I dedicated a whole episode to what I've been learning about how to kill my defensiveness. I'll link that up there. But tone is important because if someone explains why they think something about someone in the political sphere, why? Oh my God, that's so stupid. Why do you think that? Probably not a good start. Not probably. Definitely not a good start. You're definitely going to inflame the conversation and steer it in a negative direction. So instead of saying why, which actually comes across as an accusatory question to begin with, perhaps we say, tell me more about that. Now you might be like, well, that sounds like a therapist. Okay, well, there's a reason that therapists ask this question so that people feel safe enough to share. So that could be a good way to go about it. And obviously, when there's going to be differences, we need to be able to navigate those differences thoughtfully. And thoughtfully can look like actually fighting for, in your active listening, to find common ground with somebody. My husband is so good at this, and he always tells me, I believe that you can find common ground on something with anybody, and that we're closer than we think we are when you're disagreeing with somebody. And so have that mindset of, I want to stay calm because I truly want to hear their heart. So when they're sharing why they think something, I need to hold that with high esteem and respect it in the same way that I want someone to respect my thoughts and opinions. And things can start to get heated, whether from our side or the other side. And when that starts to happen, it may be necessary to implement some boundaries, such as, hey, okay, I certainly did not mean to cause you to feel that way. So let's take a step back for a couple of minutes. Nothing against you. You don't even need to say, let's take a step back. Say, I'm going to take a step back for a couple of minutes, and then we can come back to the table. But I want to make sure we're staying calm because I respect your opinion so greatly, and I don't want it to come across as anything other than that. And strong emotions can come up, strong emotions such as anger or defensiveness, because they could be rooted in fear. Media today is, I think, this is common sense. It's so fear-mongering because fear gets our attention and keeps our eyes glued to the screen, glued to our phones, glued to media. So as long as they can keep us a little bit afraid and a little bit uncertain, the proverbial they, then they're keeping our eyes fixed on that. And so if someone's fearful, we need to be thoughtful in our approach, of course, and calm to deter that fear and let them know that, hey, though what they're talking about might feel scary, you're not someone that wants to make them feel afraid too. But let's say that things are getting a little heated and this political conversation is turning into a debate and you need an escape. I got the perfect thing for you. Ready? It's called Party Cues. Party Cues is the #1 questions app in the App Store and Google Play. Best part is it's free, and here's why I love it, right? It is the social wingman that we all wish we had. Feeling awkward, feeling tense, afraid of silence? Party Cues is your answer, because where they have all of these conversation cards out here right now, where you buy them for $25 a deck, and there's only 50 cards in there, and you can lose them. Party Cues is far superior, in my opinion, because it is right here on this thing called our phones, which we always have on our person. But it's not just 50 questions in this free app. They actually have over 2,000 curated questions, all with the goal of helping you foster meaningful conversations, dialogues, and ultimately deepen your friendships and relationships in your life. I love it. I use it all the time, and I believe that you're going to love it too. You can get it on the web browser, partycues.com, or the free app on Google Play and the App Store. So download it right now. I promise you won't regret it. It's the perfect way to redirect any conversation and, of course, get to know the people that mean most to you in your life a little bit better. And, we're talking about boundaries and navigating the conversation. But if you're able to get to a place where you realize you agree on something, for instance, maybe that agreement could be, we're both extremely passionate about this, and that's something we have in common, and I respect you for having that in common with me. Know that you have that in your back pocket, and you can redirect conversations as tension and if tension arises. Because again, we're seeking to see each other's heart, not each other's political stance. Because behind each other's political stance is probably our morals, values, beliefs, how we see the world, and ultimately what we believe to be true in our hearts. And we can never intentionally make someone feel like their thoughts, opinions, values, feelings don't matter. We can't do that because that is the worst feeling to experience for ourselves. So a lot of this honestly could require us to go first when navigating these conversations and being the person that you're hoping would be talking to you. Active listening is very important, and I'm gonna be honest, I am not always good at active listening because I ask so many questions before someone finishes their thoughts. So active listening, let someone completely go through their thought. And there could be a couple of seconds of awkward silence too. That's totally fine. We seem to always be in such a hurry to get our own opinions out or cover up silence. And I think when you're having conversations like this, silence is perfect because it allows both parties to reflect and hopefully start to see each other better. And so along with active listening, when you're staying quiet and letting someone fully flesh out their thoughts, you're also lessening the opportunity for personal attacks to happen because you're showing how much you respect the person. And by letting someone finish their thoughts as well, it helps you find ways to reach common ground on issues. And I said at the beginning that we need to take into context that everyone has a different lens in which they're seeing the world through. And this often happens generationally. There's generational differences. And often when you're in my age group, it's like my parents don't agree with me, vice versa. We need to take that into account because that is important. There are people that have lived a lot more life than us, and there are people that have lived less life than us. And all of those life experiences are valid because what someone went through is valid. Because there's societal stressors that happen that are different and unique to each generation. So we can't demonize anybody else for having different thoughts, conclusions, opinions than we do because they faced a different set of circumstances than we have. And ultimately, if we can keep a conversation focused on hope and, policy specifically instead of personal attacks and divisive natured comments and anger, then it's gonna be a win. Because if you came in with that mindset of, I'm gonna respect what you think, regardless of our differences, and they're thinking the same way, then that conversation is going to be one that I believe could be very fruitful and eye-opening for both parties. And that's the kind of stuff that we need more of. Obviously, we all know we need less division. So how do we do it? Well, it starts in our own living rooms. It starts at our own kitchen tables. It starts in our own phone calls and not demanding or putting that expectation on anybody else. Because it becomes so much more freeing when we realize we have the ability, autonomy, and control of how we treat other people and how we don't need to set expectations on other people. There's actually so much freedom in not putting expectations or any kind of, I'm trying to change your mind. If we eliminate those, oh my gosh, it's gonna be so much more freeing, relaxing, peace-filled, and ultimately a nurturing conversation to have with others in your life. So, hey, this is something I'm for sure working on too, but I hope you found this helpful. And in this episode, I've been saying a lot about building rich friendships and destroying our loneliness because often mindsets like this of division and isolation, they hold us back from ultimately what we were created for, which is connection. And so if you listen to this whole episode and you're like, yeah, that's great, but ultimately I don't even really have any close friendships, then hey, I got you, it's okay. And I believe you're worth building those rich friendships. So I have a free downloadable guide, 5 steps to build rich friendships this year. So be sure to click the link in the description below to get that. You are worth it. And hey, we can get through this, not get through it. We can thrive in the midst of challenging political division, election seasons if we take control of what we can do. And what we can do is be that friend and be the person in that relationship that you want to be on the other end with you. So we'll see you next time.